What's up, class? My name is Naveed Najam, and this is my final presentation for Graphic Information Technology. The topic I chose to present on is big data. So what I'm going to be talking about today is what it is, how it fits into your life. So let's get started. So to understand what big data is, join me in a little history lesson as I reference a presentation given by Tim Smith. So the way this big data works, the way it came up, right? So there was a company, they were named CERN. They were having a problem back in the 1960s, 70s, 80s. So what started out as a company that had a lot of information, they needed to store it somewhere. So they were able to store it on one computer in one building. So people would walk to this building every day, they'd leave, they were happy, they were great. Then the company started to grow. So what happened? They needed more storage, right? So they got another one and another one. These are buildings, all dedicated for independent storage. So if I work at the company and I want to access some data, I would have to go here. I would have to go here. I would have to go here, right? And the thing was, there were some people who worked mostly here, some people who worked mostly here, some people who worked mostly here. The information was being mistaken. They were making mistakes in their work. So what they did is they created a network between the buildings, and they called it a type of net, just like we have the internet now. So the thing was, this little system was popping up all over the world in different languages, and it was very difficult for someone in the United States, for example, to communicate with somebody who was working on this in Russia or in Europe. So how did they fix this? They all decided to settle down on one system, which was the internet. All right, now once we had the internet and all of this easy sharing was possible, the next step was for these companies to grow. So what would they do? They would have all their information stored in the one building, but sometimes it would be a little too much for them. Sometimes it would be a lot too much for them to process, to figure out what they need, or maybe it's too much for them to store right here. So they would have smaller companies here. They would send the information to them, and they would pay them to store the information, and they would pay them to go through the information and look for relevant material. So big data was a concept that started with a research lab. Now, where are we today? The whole point of this is that they realized that by being able to share all of this information and by being able to have different groups analyze it, they were able to take in even more information and analyze it more and look for trends. And so in a more modern sense, people are trying to use those trends to understand people, understand the way they think. Let's talk about consumerism, understand the things that they want to buy. So let me give you an example. Let's talk about Apple. Okay, this is the Apple store right here. Now, what does Apple want to know so that they can make their next product, right? They want to know what they should name their iPhone. You know, the 7, the 7S, the SE, the 6S, whatever, right? They want to know the color. They want to know the technology. And yeah, sometimes what they will do is they're an engineering company and their goal is to innovate, but they want to allocate their resources very effectively. Let's say I think something is great, but I have some intelligence that tells me that 1,000,000 people think something else is more important. If I'm working for Apple, I'm going to focus on that thing for the 1,000,000 people because I know that they're going to come and buy my product. So what I'm naming it, what makes it more attractive, what is in the phone. So what Apple does is through various ways. They do surveys, they do focus groups, they watch your social media through cookies and things like that. They collect this data. But how do they collect it? So what Apple does is they send out their means of collecting this data. And so you, as a consumer, you do your thing, however they choose to watch you. Yeah, they're watching you. And then they get all, this is information. I'm just giving you a picture. So you can see that this is all the information that they have to go into this little box. It's too much, right? So an industry leader, Oracle or IBM, or you can look it up. You can also look this up on Forbes as well. Will put themselves here as the middleman, or like those smaller companies I was showing you earlier. And what they will do is they propose the service of taking all this information and condensing it for you. Now, the way Oracle defines this data, what they say is the first thing you need to be aware of is the fact that it has a large volume, right? So the fact is, Apple's IT department can't handle the billions and billions and billions of bits of information that are coming to them at the next thing, at a high velocity, right? And then, what else is next? So, remember we were talking about these different things that people are interested in? There's a variety. This bubble could be exclusive to color, right? But then that means that there's something equally big for technology, for the name, right? So, the variety in the data that they're looking for. And lastly, what these middlemen propose to do is create a value for you. Meaning, I will take in all this information and I will spew out to you, you should name it the 7S. I will spew out to you, you should make your phones pink, black, gray, and the last color, whatever it is, and the technology, okay? I don't agree with the headphone lightning port taking away, but that's what we got. So that's how that works. They're the middlemen, and they give Apple the information, and Apple is continuously trying to get more and more and more. Okay, awesome. So one last point I want to make before we head out is another example similar to Apple, just so you guys can wrap your mind around this concept of big data, is the Human Genome Project. So what exactly is that? It's a 13-year-old project that's been around since the 1990s, where the goal is to understand exactly the way the human DNA works so that they can treat, prevent, and cure diseases without any side effects to the medicine, right? So the same concept is, this is a project that's been going on for years now, so it's taking a while. And it's an open source project, collaborated. Everyone in the world is working on this together. Everyone who's an ally. There's some bad people in the world, right? So now, this is being stored in the data centers all over the world. All over the world. And eventually, we'll get to a point where we can understand exactly how to prevent these diseases, exactly how to take care of them, and that will all be a product of big data. So, lastly, I'm going to talk about is my other reference is IBM. They're an industry leader in this type of software. So what they propose is, just to give you an idea of exactly what companies are doing with all this big data, like what can I propose? Remember I gave you 3 pictures? The middleman, what exactly does he do? So the first one I told you about, he provides the storage because it's terabytes. There's more information than, not only we can wrap our head around, more information than computers can wrap their little processor around. So that's exactly what it is. And next, it's a bit too much to explain right now, but I'm going to provide a link to the Hadoop system. It's an open source tool that allows people to work on big data. Okay. The third thing is real-time analytics, right? So obviously, I'm going to draw the middleman again here. They work with code. What they do is they have millions of algorithms that can take in all that information that's coming in, and they can give you exactly what you want to know. Simple, right? So, and then lastly, it has been known to be a very gray area ethically, the way companies have been dealing with this information. So sadly, companies get to market the fact that they have integrity. So, anyway, there's my presentation. There's my final for graphic information technology. I had a lot of fun making this presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. First time I've ever done something like this, but ideally I tutor kids on Sundays, Somali refugees. So hopefully this little exercise I can retake for them. So definitely pulled me out of my comfort zone, but it was a good exercise. I had a great time with this class. Please like and share and subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be a YouTube star one day based on this video. And I will also provide you with the links for Hadoop and for code.org in case you want to learn how those little algorithms work. It's a good place for you to go from this class of gaining computer literacy to actually designing what goes on inside the computer brain. Have a great one.